He also has ways to unlock truth in a scientific way. And those don't have to come by inspiration of the Holy Ghost to my mind and my heart through a study of the Scriptures. Most of those are going to come after people who are experts in their fields have spent years in laboratories running experiments.
What's powerful about this, I remember President Nelson, I believe it was in November 2020, he did a video for the church, a very short video, very powerful, and he identified himself with two phrases. He began with, "I am a man of science, and I am a man of faith." And I have felt for a long time, there isn't a conflict between faith and science. We should also point out that the truths that we've been talking about this whole year are kind of capital T truths, salvific truths. And the truths that you get from science are not the truths that are going to lead you into God's kingdom, but they might help you to have a more prosperous, peaceful, happy life. And let's actually talk about the word science for just a minute and why this matters. So the word science comes from a beautiful Latin word that simply means knowledge. Now, God is a God of knowledge. So if we just take the core etymological root meaning of science, God is a scientist. And scientists are seeking to be more like God in the sense that they're seeking after knowledge. Now again, they're not out there looking for the covenant path. And it's okay that the covenant path is the pathway to be saved with God and through God. There's a lot of other things in the world that are also good and lovely and of good report, and we should become knowledgeable about those things. And science is a very powerful way to do it. And in my experience, some of the most humble people I have ever known are scientists. People who every day are diligently and very deliberately and rigorously pursuing questions to significant, or pursuing answers to significant questions, and not simply being swayed by every wind of doctrine or whatever shows up on the internet. And they are drop by drop adding to the store of human knowledge to make our lives better. And if you look around in the last hundreds of years, one of the major reasons why there is so much peace and prosperity, and I know there's still a lot of trauma and difficulty in the world, is because scientists have labored to seek after knowledge and to share it with others. Now let's just share one more perspective on this. So some months ago, I saw this image on the, some friend shared this with me, and it really made me smile. And I thought, okay, this actually explains how the human brain works. The human brain is designed to tell stories and to find patterns in data. And sometimes the patterns that we think we see are really just all made up. But really what we're seeking is the wisdom that comes from the knowledge of seeing true patterns. So let's map how this works out. First of all, you have a bunch of data, all these data points. Information is when you start to see how some data is connected to other data. And then how those lines start to connect to each other. That leads to knowledge. Insight is how two disparate data points actually have a connection that you had never seen before, and the wisdom is to draw that connection. Now, the one that makes me laugh is conspiracy theory, where somebody comes along and draws a unicorn, a purple unicorn with wings. And if you can see, you can draw all those dots in such a way that it looks like a unicorn. Conspiracy theories are alive and well and have been around for many, many generations. Humans just kind of get pulled into these things. And what's interesting about the word conspiracy, it comes from the word to look. And actually, it's an intensive looking, almost if somebody's like, you gotta really see this. Like, you gotta, like, it's almost like this intensified view beyond what is real. And our invitation is look for information, then look for knowledge, seek the insight, and make the connections to wisdom. Science can help, and God absolutely can help. And let's protect ourselves against creating fake or false stories or believing or spreading lies that might make us feel good or make us popular, but ultimately aren't trustworthy and not founded on things that are real or true or trustworthy, and will not lead to fruit that actually matters to life, happiness, or salvation.
So as you picture Joseph and Sidney going out into this mission effort now to try to combat some of these truth claims that Ezra Booth has started to publish and spread, you can picture the frustration of trying to share with people what you know to be true, and them saying, nope, this is my view of reality, and combating what you're saying. To illustrate this, I want to share with you a little segment from one of C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia. This is the Silver Chair, Book 6 in his Chronicles of Narnia series. Just to bring you up to speed so that this section makes sense and you can see its connection to what we're talking about today. You have this marsh wiggle, this made-up creature named Puddleglum, who's kind of a frog-like, tall, lanky character in this story. You have the two human children, Eustace Scrubb and Jill. These two children and Puddleglum have come into the underworld and have found the prince of the Narnian throne, the son of the king. His name is Rillian, and they have released him from his bondage that this queen of the underworld has placed him under. And the queen bursts in unexpectedly to see them in this setting, and she throws a magical powder on the fire, which creates this aroma, and she starts playing this instrument very pleasantly. And then she starts talking, and she starts trying to separate them from what is real, from what is truth, and to get them to believe her lies. So they're in this state, in this underground cave area, trying to fight through what is real, what is fake. And here's a part of the dialogue. Then came the witch's voice, cooing softly, like the voice of a wood pigeon from the high elms in an old garden at 3 o'clock in the middle of a sleepy summer afternoon. And it said, "What is the sun that you all speak of? Do you mean anything by that word?" "Yes, we jolly well do," said Scrubb. That's Eustace, the boy. "Can you tell me what it's like?" asked the witch. Thrum, thrum, thrum went the strings. "Please it your grace," said the prince very coldly and politely. "You see that lamp? It is round and yellow, and it gives light to the whole room, and hangeth moreover from the roof. Now that which we call the sun is like the lamp, only far greater and brighter. It giveth light to the whole overworld, and hangeth in the sky." "Hangeth from what, my lord?" asked the witch. And then while they were all still thinking how to answer her, she added with another of her soft silver laughs, "You see, when you try to think out clearly what this sun must be, you cannot tell me. You can only tell me what it is like. Your sun is a dream, and there is nothing in that dream that was not copied from the lamp. The lamp is the real thing. The sun is but a tale, a children's story." "Yes, I see now," said Jill in a heavy, hopeless tone. "It must be so." And while she said this, it seemed to her to be very good sense. Slowly and gravely the witch repeated, "There is no sun." And they all said nothing. She repeated in a softer, deeper voice, "There is no sun." Now, to cut down, there's more dialogue here about Aslan, the lion Christ figure in the story, where they talk about him, and she convinces them that they've made him up because they've seen some cats down in the underworld, and they've now created a god out of something that they've seen in the underworld. And they keep having these struggles when finally Puddleglum did something. when they were all sitting there convinced that there is no overworld and everything that they thought they knew, everything they thought was true was just them making it up. When Puddleglum goes over and with his frog-like foot puts out the fire, and then he says this, "One word, ma'am," he said, coming back from the fire, limping because of the pain. "One word. All you've been saying is quite right, I shouldn't wonder. I'm a chap who always liked to know the worst and then put the best face I can on it. So I won't deny any of what you said, but there's one thing more to be said even so. Suppose we have only dreamed or made up all those things, trees and grass and sun and moon and stars and Aslan himself. Suppose we have. Then all I can say is that, in that case, the made-up things seem a good deal more important than the real ones. Suppose this black pit of a kingdom of yours is the only world. Well, it strikes me as a pretty poor one. And that's a funny thing when you come to think of it. We're just babies making up a game, if you're right. But 4 babies playing a game can come up with a play world which licks your real world hollow. That's why I'm going to stand by the play world. I'm on Aslan's side, even if there isn't any Aslan to lead it. I'm going to live as like a Narnian as I can, even if there isn't any Narnia. So thanking you kindly for our supper. If these 2 gentlemen and the young lady are ready, we're leaving your court at once and setting out in the dark to spend our lives looking for overland. Not that our lives will be very long, I should think, but that's small loss if the world's as dull a place as you say." Brothers and sisters, all of the lies, all of the deceptions, all of the partial truths that the devil puts forth and spreads throughout the world to try to get people to sleepily deny what they knew before or what they've learned before, you'll notice they're never calculated to bring joy. They're never calculated to bring light or lasting relationships with people. They're calculated to bring doubt, to bring questions, to bring despair, usually. I stand with Puddleglum in this search for truth. When the devil's lies and deceptions come, I'm sticking with Aslan, and I'm going to keep marching forward on the covenant path, knowing that it leads out of the underworld to the overland, where the sun shines the brightest in a heavenly context. One other factor that we need to consider here is often in the world in which we live, people measure truth claims by the number of people they can get to agree with that claim. The number of followers, the number of likes, the number of views. That it must be right. There is this amazing concept that President Nelson has shared when he gave a talk at BYU. 3 simple words: truth is truth. And you can't change it by public opinion. We can't get everybody on the planet together to vote against God's existence and have it do anything to God's existence. Just like you can't get all the people on the planet to go and vote against gravity. You're still going to be touching the earth, walking home or driving home. So gratefully, we have these sources to help ground us, to help build our foundation in truth, in Christ. These scriptures, the words of the living prophets, and at the end of the day, truth will prevail, not the lies, not the deceptions.